Keith Sadler is on the line. He's in Stony Ridge, Ohio, a suburb of Toledo, Ohio, a former UAW auto worker who lost his job and is in the process of losing his home, and he's saying, hell no, I ain't going. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tom. Glad for having us. Thanks.
I think this is extraordinary what you're doing. I think it could be, you could be the Rosa Parks. You could be the one who is the tipping point for people waking up to what's going on in America. Tell us what happened to you, Keith.
Well, I mean, basically, for me personally, and of course this whole thing is not about me, as you kind of pointed out, but you know, I was an auto worker, and I suffered, you know, over a long period of time, repetitive strain injury, and had a couple of surgeries, and was not able to return to work, and I was getting disability pay through my insurance, and was making only half of what I was making when I was working, and so I got months behind on my house, eventually up to 4 months. But I've been buying the house for 10 years. Paid over $40,000 into the house, and because I got 4 months behind, they wanted to pull the rug out from under me, and didn't think that was too fair.
Right. So you went to the bank and said, "Let's work this out." And
yeah, I mean,
they said to you what?
Well, they had told me all along, even before it got to that point, because I've been getting a little bit behind. They told me that they were going to work out some kind of program, that there was more folks like me in trouble, and then so I was been waiting for whatever plan they were going to come up with, right. And next thing I know, I get the certified letter saying I got 30 days to get caught up on my payments.
And I understand the police are outside your house right now. They just cut off the power to the house.
Well, yeah, they cut the power off, but apparently they ran. And we didn't have anybody, I guess, on that side of the house to check where the meter was, and they didn't pull the meter. They actually just cut it with cables.
Yikes.
So, I mean, we're kind of a little frantic in here. Our backup is not working properly as we had hoped, and as we had, actually earlier tried.
Right.
So
we're talking to you on your cell phone.
The police aren't out there, right? The police aren't out there yet. But this could be just a further tactic in trying to wait us out, cutting the power and cutting our to the world, basically. Because we've had a lot of support and a lot of people here.
Right. There are a couple of groups that are working with you, Keith. We've got their websites over at ThomHartmann.com. People, and however you spell Thom Hartmann will get you there, and because the URLs are fairly long, and I don't think people will remember them if they're driving in their car, or they'll write them down. But there's a couple of groups that are working with you. The Toledo Foreclosure Defense League.
That's who we are.
Right, that is you. Okay, and then Take Back the Land out of Miami, Florida. Tell us about the Toledo Foreclosure Defense League.
Well, I mean, this was basically a project that was on the burners before I got into the trouble, and we had seen what was going on across the country, and we were kind of doing research on finding out who was doing what, and then we looked in Toledo, and nobody here was doing anything. We tried to form a coalition with other, with faith-based groups and other activist groups, and nobody wanted to join us, so we just started on our own. And
good on you.
I think they were afraid of direct action type of, tactics.
Right.
Because we saw that people weren't getting the help through the remedies that are supposedly there, and still millions of people losing their homes, and we thought we had to step up our action in order to, wake up the world, or wake up the government. I mean, we're not depending on the politicians. I mean, obviously they're not doing their job, or serving the people. So
right.
We figured that people have to step up and act.
We're talking with Keith Sadler. He lives in Stony Ridge, Ohio. His home is being taken away by the bank. They were not willing to work things out with him. They were not willing to avail themselves of the funds that were supposedly available through these federal programs that the Obama administration put together that seem basically to be being ignored by banks all across the United States. Keith Sadler, in the 1930s, the Homeowners Loan Corporation was brought into being by the Roosevelt administration. the Homeowners Refinancing Act was the thing that did it. And because as the Great Depression happened, most people actually had 5-year balloon mortgages, those people who had mortgages, and they were just totally wiped out. And by the time that program was dissolved in 1951, it was actually showing a profit. The government came in and said, okay, we'll take over your mortgage. You pay us instead of the bank. We'll convert your 5-year note to a 30-year note, and we'll guarantee a low interest rate because we're going to backstop this thing. Is that the kind of remedy that you're calling for now?
Well, right now we're calling for an immediate moratorium on foreclosures in this county. In order to work out a system that's going to be fair for both. And I hate to be saying fair for the banks, but obviously they're the ones who put up the money.
Sure.
It's definitely not been fair for the people. So,
yeah.
and as you were mentioning, back in the 30s, they also had moratoriums in several states, and Ohio and Michigan were ones where moratoriums were called for for 5 and 6 years.
Right.
And also in the 30s in New York City, when people were thrown out of their homes, community members came to those people's homes and actually just moved them right back in. So, that form of resistance and direct action is what we're about, but we're not working other kind of things. Hold on one second.
Yeah, sure. We're talking with Keith Sadler. He is in outside of Toledo, Ohio. Stony Ridge, Ohio is where he is. He's a former UAW auto worker who lost his job because of an injury and got a little behind in his payments, and boom, the bank pulls the rug out from underneath him, says, that's it, you're out of here, and the next thing he knows, he gets a sheriff's notice. The big picture here is that our economy has been decimated by 30 years of insane trade policies and Reaganomics, and Clintonomics for that matter, and our government is not working with us to try and make it possible for people to stay in their homes.
Right, and they're working well with the banks by giving them bailouts, and
yeah.
and it's our money that they're giving away, and then they're we're getting stabbed in the back.
We're talking with Keith Sadler. Keith, the banksters right now can borrow from the Fed at zero. Zero.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny because since the foreclosure process started, my interest rate at the time I went into default, as you would call it, was 7.99%, and here recently, they sent me a coupon book with payments that were over $150 cheaper than what my payments were before, and telling me that my interest rate had dropped from 5% to 3%. And why couldn't they have done that back when I was trying to get help, and and maybe it would have, if nothing else, it definitely would have prolonged the situation.
Right.
But maybe it could have made it to where I could afford to have stayed in my home.
Right. So, in other words, they finally did come through?
Well, it was because I have an adjustable rate mortgage, all right, and interest rates had started falling, and so they ended up dropping it, and not for me. It was just for that type of loan. I see.
We're talking with Keith Sadler. He is fighting the idea that or calling for a nationwide moratorium on home foreclosures. He's with the Toledo Foreclosure Defense League. Keith, we have just a minute left. What are you calling on people around this country to do when they find that somebody's being evicted from their home, to show up?
Yeah, show up, stay in your home, and organize around your communities to do similar actions. We have to fight back because the law enforcement powers are more or less powers of ruled by the banks as well as the politicians, and so nothing's going to change until people start fighting back.
Right, and pushing back, and we absolutely need this. And Keith, you're good on you. There's a whole bunch of people there in the house with you, right?
Yeah, there's 5 other people in here with us, all members of the Toledo Foreclosure Defense League.
No weapons, nothing like that.
Right.
Police.
No weapons, no booby traps. As
right.
The sheriff has tried to say that we've got in here, and
police have nothing to fear. But you guys aren't leaving till well, you're not leaving. The Toledo Foreclosure Defense League, there's a link to it over at ThomHartmann.com. Keith Sadler. Keith, good luck, and keep in touch with us, would you?
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.